3, 2, 1, off we go. Hi everybody, and welcome to another exciting edition of Boring JavaScript. I'm your host, the Virtual Wade, aka Mike Smith, and today we're going to talk about the sort method on arrays. Now, what does the sort method do? Well, how should I put this? It sorts your array. Yes, that's right. You pass it a callback function, and that function is going to give you two elements, and you tell JavaScript how to sort those two elements, and it takes care of everything from there. Let's see how it works. This is the callback function that I was talking about earlier. Now, the callback function will give to you two arguments. The first argument is the first element to compare. The second argument is the second element to compare. Now, you will pass back to JavaScript one of three different values. If the value of the first element is less than the value of the second element, or for my particular case here, if I want the first element to be sorted before the second element, I will return a -1. If I want the first element to be sorted after the second element, I return a 1. If I don't want any action to occur on those two particular elements, I will return a 0. So to recap here real quick, if the first element is to be sorted before the second element, return a -1. If the first element is to be sorted after the second element, return a 1. And if no actions take place, return a 0. So by default, in my particular case here, by default, we are going to be sorting in ascending order. So given this, I would expect my array to be sorted. So once we do the sort itself, the array has been changed, it's now been sorted, and I'm just going to do a very simple and easy little printout there to show it on the screen. And speaking of that, let's take a look at it on the screen. Sure enough, there it is. Cat, cow, coyote, dog, dolphin, horse, lizard, roadrunner, and well, everything is now sorted in ascending order. Well, what if you wanted both ascending and descending order? How are you going to do that? Well, that's actually very simple. Let's go to this next example here. And the only thing that really has changed here is the data that I'm going to be returning from, or returning back over to JavaScript. Again, I just have my simple callback function here, and again, first element and second element. Now, earlier, I remember I said that if you wanted the first element sorted before the second element, you want to return a -1, and that by default gives you ascending order. So if you want descending order, you have to flip or reverse the process. So what I have done here is I have created a function called sorter, in which I pass to it the array.sort and the sort type. And that sort type is either going to be an ascending order or it's going to be a descending order. So all I really want to do here is I want to change the values that I return. In this particular case here, if I want the first element to be sorted before the second element or ascending order, I'm going to return a -1. So now I checked my sort type to make sure that if it's ascending, I'm going to return a -1. If it is descending order, of course, I want to reverse the process, so I'm going to return a 1. So all I've really done here is I've taken the same thing as I had before, and depending upon whether I'm passing ASC or DSC, I'm just reversing the -1 or 1 around. So if the first element is to be sorted after the second element in ascending order, then I return a 1. But if it's in descending order, then I want to return a -1. And of course, 0, 0 is 0, so I don't care about that one. So this now should sort everything either by ascending order or sort everything by descending order. Let's take a look and see how that works. Sort, ascending, descending, and there we are. My first list here is definitely in ascending order. My second list here is definitely in descending order. Now, let's go back to my array real quick. As you notice here, my array is a very simple little array here of just strings. What if you had an array of objects, which happens probably 90% of the time you're going to be working with arrays? Well, that's real simple too, and that's the power of the sort function, is because you pass it that callback function, you are then allowed to tell JavaScript exactly how to sort that object. So let's take a look at it. So now, as you can tell here, my array has changed to an array of objects in which I'm passing a property of type and a property of name. So I've gone back now to the original example here where I'm just by default sorting ascending order. Now earlier I was comparing my first element to my second element. Well, I can't do that now because they're objects. I need to compare different properties. within that object. So what I've done here is just made one simple little change in which now I'm comparing the name of property of the object. As you remember here, each object is passed has two properties, type and name. I want to sort by name here. So now I'm checking the first element's name and the second element's name and returning my -1, 1, or 0. So in this particular way, you can now sort objects within the array. Other than that, it works exactly the same way as before, so let's take a quick look at it. Sort objects. There it is. The names are now sorted in ascending order. So this shows you the power of the sort method, is that it will allow you to not only sort the very simple objects like strings and numbers, but it allows you to sort arrays, but it allows you to sort arrays that are as complicated as all gatehouse. So if you had each element to be this massive object and you need to drill down about 6 different levels to get to a property, no problem, because you control through the callback function how those two particular elements are going to be sorted. Well, that's all it is for today on the sort method. I really hope I haven't bored you to death, and I will see you later.